Playing video games with friends is an unmatched experience. You can be lonely and play video games by yourself all you want, but gathering a couple of friends and spending a couple hours playing some video games makes it quite the party. But that begs the question, what are some of the best games for a multiplayer experience? Naturally, some games are only meant for single player and have no multiplayer features whatsoever, while plenty of games are designed with multiplayer in mind, and some are more versatile and can cater to however many players you want. Some games are better at this than others, but there are quite a few of them that provide incentive to not being a social hermit. They could make friendships a little more frustrating though. Now, to lay out a couple of ground rules for this list, no entry has to be an exclusively multiplayer game. As I've said before, some games are flexible and can be enjoyed perfectly well by yourself or with a group of people, and such games will be included in this list. Just the multiplayer part though. Also, this list only includes games that I've played, obviously, which I'm saying under the assumption that I'll leave out some game that any other human being would likely include on a list like this. I feel like I haven't really played enough games to make many countdowns in general, let alone one about multiplayer. I don't know whether I need more time or more friends. When I first bought a Nintendo Switch when it released, I was deliberately searching for something multiplayer for the system. Breath of the Wild was going to tide me over for a while, but if I wanted to have some friends over to play this great cool new console, I needed something more. 1-2-Switch is alright, but it's little more than a tech demo. This led me to find a quirky little title for just $20 by the name of Snipperclips. Now, tackling challenging puzzles that require cooperation between multiple people can be a decent amount of fun, looking at a game like, say, Portal 2. To reference Portal 2 some more, while the puzzles in that game are more deliberate and make for a relatively calmer experience in a multiplayer setting, Snipperclips, not so much. While it certainly takes effort and coordination to solve Snipperclips puzzles, it's all too tempting to try and fuck everything up. Snipperclips' premise is essentially the you or two of whatever the hell these are, and you have to morph your shape to solve the puzzle at hand. The puzzles vary from simply morphing yourself in order to fit inside a certain outline, moving an egg through a field of birds that copy your every move and shape, and getting balls or frogs to a certain place in order to win. You can play by yourself and switch between controlling Snip and Clip, but come on. Are you really that lonely? No, the best way to play this game is with a friend. It's often easier to solve puzzles, and it's way more fun. Attempting to accomplish anything with a player 2 is so chaotic and bizarre that every level beaten feels like a life achievement. But if you think that's bad, wait until you see the 4-player mode. That's right, if you have enough Joy-Cons, you can actually bring 4 players into the fray. There are special puzzles made for 4 players as well, and fuck are they frustrating. Beating a level takes way longer than it probably should. This is usually because of terrible coordination between the 4 players, or just everyone trying to sabotage the operation by constantly cutting the other players. Beating a level in this mode? Good luck, my friend. Forget what I said earlier, this feels like a life accomplishment. There's also mini-games and an arena mode where your goal is to cut the other players. Oh god, it's a nightmare. Now, if we're going to continue on the 4-player Hellscape train, I think it's important for one to recognize the importance of one of the chief poster boys for this kind of mayhem. I was actually torn between 2 major Mario spin-off series for this entry, Kart and Party to be specific. And while each has their own separate purposes, and Mario Kart serves as a great source of relatively wholesome fun, save for the recurring blue shells, you can't just escape the one that started it all. Nintendo, despite their friendly and wholesome demeanor, are quite adept at ruining friendships. It's only a matter of time before they make a Mario Monopoly game. Oh wait, they did, didn't they? Regardless, Mario Party is perhaps one of the most infamous and yet oddly thrilling Nintendo franchises. No matter how many times this game screws me over, breaks my heart, makes me throw my controller in frustration, I keep coming back for more. Not just because some of the mini-games can be really fun, but it's also because it's a game of chance. It's the overarching influence of luck and haphazardness that keeps it exciting. Because yes, while you'll get your fair share of kicks to the balls, the feeling of finally having the cards dealt in your favor is a feeling like no other. I've had my fair share of times where I've led the whole game and then lost because of bonus stars and I shouted the cursiest of curse words, but my all-time favorite moment is the time I was losing for the whole game before random chance forced the first place player to surrender all their coins and stars to me. It's a double-edged sword. Outside of that, Mario Party's core gameplay of dice rolling and minigame playing is perfectly enjoyable until shit hits the fan. I mean, they totally ruined it in Mario Party 10, but that's fine. I only wasted like $60 whole on this game. I only play 4 anyway. Oh well, so long as they fix it and add online multiplayer for a new Switch release, I'll stick with the series for a while longer. Make that your New Year's resolution, why don't you? Believe it or not, Mario Party isn't the only Nintendo series where you and your friends beat the shit out of each other. Another one of Nintendo's arguably flagship franchises that got its start as a quirky fighting experience full of Nintendo's Hall of Fame in the 90s has emerged today as a blockbuster series with remarkably refined, balanced, and intricate gameplay and mechanics and a massive competitive side to it. Super Smash Bros. Is, in many ways, a jack of all trades, or at least a few of them. The way it's designed makes it simplistic enough to pick up, play, and enjoy, but its monumental skill ceiling makes it possible to take very seriously if you really want to. Maybe a bit too seriously sometimes. With the numerous ways you can customize individual matches, make it a reasonably enjoyable party game, and it makes for a great way to settle disputes probably. But regardless of whether settling it in Smash is feasible, the real meat of the game is in its vast assortment of different modes and its easy to play, hard to master nature that can let you sink dozens of hours into it without running out of things to do. If you have way too much free time, you can even get good at the more technical, competitive side to the franchise to make for some sick 4 glory montages and maybe even test your mettle in a Smash tournament. I personally never got into the competitive scene though. I'm too impatient and just not good enough at games to get on that level. Not exactly much bragging rights to be earned from it anyway. At the end of the day, the focus of this video is still multiplayer, and there isn't too much more to be said than that Super Smash Bros. Pick up and play nature and its deep diversity of gameplay make it a great time to have with friends, or online with strangers if you're really lonely. You don't even need friends to play multiplayer on this game. Well, in a welcome change of pace, here we have a game that actually encourages you to work with your friends instead of against them. Kirby's Epic Yarn came rather quietly for the Wii in 2010, and while it was nice for what it was a very obvious departure from the core gameplay that made Kirby so great. Fortunately for those hungry for another main installment in the Kirby series, a massive adventure in what could arguably be the best game in the franchise dropped just a year later. Kirby's Return to Dreamland playing solo is a fantastic experience all its own, but it's when you bring in your squadron of fellow Kirbys, or any of these fuckers, that it really gets to be something interesting. Since you're all working toward the same common goal, that is, finishing levels and beating the game adopts a much more cooperative nature, and it's that cooperative nature that makes it a far less irritating experience than, say, Mario Party. Your cohorts being slightly incompetent may be bothersome at times, but it's easier to tolerate because they're not usually trying to actively sabotage your efforts, and sometimes having a few companions can make some puzzles and challenges easier to surmount, oftentimes giving you more options to go about nabbing collectibles, and the extra damage to enemies and bosses alike is always welcome. Overall else, Kirby's Return to Dreamland has some really solid and enjoyable gameplay to begin with that, when enjoyed with a couple of not brain-dead companions, just gets all the merrier. You can even play a few minigames in this game if you really need to satiate your lust for competition. We all succumb to the madness eventually. If you know me well enough, I think it was easy to tell from the very beginning that a certain online shooter game just might be getting a place here. It's a title that I personally have sunk quite a number of hours into, and one that instantly jumps to mind when I think of a great multiplayer experience. You may be no psychic, but I'm no M. Night Shyamalan. Now that I think about it, there isn't much for me to say about Team Fortress 2 that hasn't already been said in some form. After first being brought to this world in late 2007, its addictive, fresh, and well-designed gameplay has kept it a fairly relevant game over the years. Although it's obviously shown its age a little bit after a decade of existence, with many people flocking to newer and bigger games, it still hasn't gotten boring for me. All the ways you can customize your gameplay with the different classes and weapons and maps and all the various fun strategies and playstyles that people have come up with over the years make it a great game to play pretty much however you want. And that's not even counting all the support it's gotten from fans with a vast assortment of fan-made mods, maps, and community servers. You can boot it up for a good old-fashioned round of Payload, or you can spend your time digging around on a chaotic modded server or with some remarkably stupid strategy that you saw in a YouTube video once. Regardless, the gameplay is just pure fun, plain and simple. And even if you get tired of playing a certain way for a long time, you can always just try something else. There's always some different way to play and different new things to try out. And the best part, you don't even need real people around to play with others, just a stable internet connection. So while your friendships may end over time, the fun never does. I'm the Almighty Piplup, and I know that at the beginning of this video I was talking about the wonders of not being a misanthropic recluse, because look at all these games you can play with your friends, while later mentioning games where you just need Wi-Fi to enjoy the world of multiplayer. But at the same time, that's sort of the magic of video games. Through the advent of the internet, they have the power to bring together all sorts of people from around the world with totally different worlds and lives, but all having something in common to bond over. That broader concept might be why online friends have become more popular nowadays, as while it may be a legitimate struggle for some to find companions in real life, the world of the internet and video games brings boundless opportunities. Still, nothing can ever truly compare to raging at your friends in real time when playing Mario Party. You just can't top that. Well, would you look at that, you made it to the outro screen. This was my first attempt at making a whole countdown in 1 month. If this released in late January, which is what I'm banking on, I guess that means I did something right for once. Good job, me. If all goes well with this one, I'm hoping to continue this pattern of getting a quote-unquote real video out each month while keeping the usual Let's Play shenanigans on the side. Who knows? Maybe this will end me up with more than 3 active viewers. I'll just have to see where life takes me. Anyway, if you want to see some other countdowns that I've made, click in the top playlist. If you want to see a co-op Let's Play of Zelda Breath of the Wild, you can click in the bottom playlist. If you want to see some of the other videos I've made, take a visit to my channel or click on whatever videos I decide to put here. Also, I'd like to deliver to you the obligatory message to consider liking or subscribing if you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching, and here's to me actually making YouTube videos this year. New Year's resolutions are a bitch.